I flip to the first page, I look at the primary focus of the lesson, which is their learning goals. So they have 4 main goals in this lesson, but I'll start by focusing on reading because that's kind of the meatier one. So students will identify and explain the similarities and differences between particular Maya, Aztec, and Inca creation myths, and that standard is RL 5.9. And so I'm going to go through and look at what questions on here I think are going to be my my check for understanding question and what I really want to focus on. So when I look at these 3 questions, I felt like this question, this part B, what similarity or difference between the Maya creation myth and the Inca creation myth did you find most interesting and why? Be sure to include specific details from the text in your answer. I thought this would be a great race response question and a great way to really zoom in on their identifying similarities and differences. And it's a multi-part question, so it'll really help me get them kind of focused on reading all parts of the question and responding to all parts of the question. So I'm going to have them silent solo that race response, and then as they're writing, I'm going to be going around and looking for someone to show call that is hitting all parts of this question, because I know that some kids are just going to list either one similarity or difference, or they're going to give me similarities and differences and not which one they found most interesting and why. And then I know there's going to be some that also leave out their details from the text. So looking at the other questions, I decided kind of how I'm going to check in with that. So looking at the lesson at a glance, they have them partner reading and they want them to read and then respond through this. I'm going to break it up because I want them, if I just leave it open to them reading with their partner and then responding to the questions, I know that there's going to be all finishing at different times. People are going to miss things from the questions, and I really want to closely monitor their hitting of those targets. So I'm going to have them read a couple pages at a time. So looking at the questions, I broke up the pages so I can kind of do it in chunks. So first they'll read 64 through 66 together, and then we'll read the question as a group, and then they'll go into silent soloing this answer before they turn and talk. And then while they're doing that, I'm going to go around and choose somebody to warm call that is paying attention to the evidence in the text and how it's important to the people of Mexico today, because I know a lot of them are going to miss that important piece of today and not just back in the time of the civilization. And then this one is really quickly identifying which myth or which part of the myth applies to which civilization. So they're still comparing and contrasting, but it's a little bit simpler. So I'm going to have them work on that together in their group after they read those pages, and then we'll just whole class call out, because that'll be really quick and it'll give me a really quick gauge of whether or not the majority has it. So that's the focus on the reading and how I'm planning out kind of how that's going. So they'll read those pages in chunks, do that question, and then when we get into the other goals, so identifying action verbs and linking verbs, I know that we've already done this before and gone over it, and I have our poster that will be up for them. So I'm going to have them just do 1 through 5 really quick, and I'm going to go around and just keep track on my sticky note here of who does not have it. So who's going to need a reteach. So I'm just looking at these quick 5 and noticing who's got most of it and who is missing a lot of it. And then I'll write those names down here so I know who to go back and reteach. and they can reteach them in a small group in RTI, and we could just finish those remaining ones in RTI. I think there's also a pausing point on this one too that I can use. And then same thing for practicing our root tract. This is not the first time they've seen it, so it should be real quick to go over it, review what tract means, and then I will do an active observation on who's got it or who needs extra practice. And I already have an additional resource in mind for what we can work on together in RTI for those that need the reteach. And then I'll write those down here as I see them.